So I became deaf when I was immediately born. My parents found out after a year of realizing that I couldn't hear anything or their voice, so they hooked me up with some doctor that can have me some cochlear implant.
Loss journey depends if they're prelingual or postlingual. So prelingual meaning the hearing loss rate is identified or it comes about prior to language beginning. Postlingual is you might have hearing and then you have language and then you lose your hearing. So I think when I think about that, it could be very different. The majority of patients that we see, even here at the University of Miami, are prelingual, meaning they're born, most of the time they're born with hearing loss. And so those children tend to adapt a little bit easier because they've lived their entire life with having hearing loss and the availability of hearing technology. But with that said, hearing technology isn't enough. While it could really provide better auditory input, it allows them, access to sound in their environment. It allows them to develop spoken language. It could still affect their social development, their emotional functioning, their ability to kind of keep up at school because there is such a thing of like listening fatigue. And so for us as individuals, when we hear, we don't really think about having to focus as much on listening, but still for individuals with hearing loss, it's still an active component of what they have to deal with on their day-to-day.
My mother noted that I'm not hearing anything well or I'm not answering her questions when she was talking to me. So she took me to 5 different hospitals because the doctors say that I am perfectly normal and there's no problem. Until one day at the hospital that she found say that I am deaf. So I've been deaf for like almost a year and a half until I have a surgery for the cochlear implants. It was I was about 4 years old that I have my left cochlear implant, and then 2 years later I have my right cochlear implant.
Fortunately, from I would say second grade, I was failing all my grades and all. So my teacher told me that there's gonna transfer me to a different school where there's gonna be a group of class of someone like me, hard of hearing and deaf.
When I was 3 or 4 years old, I was in the kindergarten in Davis school, but then I transferred to Kenwood because they have special classes for deaf students like me.
I've seen children come through this door, and as soon as they see somebody that's wearing a hearing aid or wearing an implant, they get all excited and they're like, wow, there is somebody else here that's like me, that learns like me, that is like me. A lot of times parents think that when they put their child in a self-contained classroom that has a special program, that their child will be missing out on things that children in the general education would. But the reality is that they have better access because we provide all kinds of accommodations for them to access the general curriculum, and it helps them to better understand. So they might be in a classroom that is smaller and with children with the same disabilities, but I have found that to be helpful to the students.
That made me realize there's so much more students like me who is deaf and have a cochlear implant or hearing aids. And it made me realize there's so many things that I learned in that school, and then special classes for deaf is that I become a better listener. I can do many things despite being deaf.
How this being deaf affected my social life in school? I would say nothing had changed for me. I was just making friends. I was having a conversation with them and my family. They see me as a real general human boy.
People assume that children that are deaf and hard of hearing learn in the same way that a hearing child does, and they don't. And so what we misinterpret as people is because they speak, our program is oral. So because our children speak, they assume that they understand everything. So speaking is not the same as comprehension. So our children speak, but it doesn't mean that they understand everything you tell them.
Sometimes we can be behind speech because we hear differently from the normal person because we have a cochlear implant or hearing aid that we hear differently, so we get behind speech because we need to know like how to sound it out with the words or files.
I have to take speech therapy because I couldn't speak that well as other people want me to, or couldn't understand me in general. So I couldn't say exactly the S or the X sound as I tried to talk to them. So, and then thankfully the speech therapy have helped me upgrading my speaking well, and yeah, just pretty much helped me all.
Nowadays in movies and internet really help me like connect with other deaf people in like similar situation. Even though I don't really connect who in the internet or the movie, because I connect with the deaf student at the school who are my friends.
Yeah, the technology of my cochlear implant have been improvised my hearing and my speaking over the years. Just recent one, they put a Bluetooth feature that I can easily connect to my phone directly, so I can hear a conversation through a phone call and hear the movie through there too, and music, which I personally prefer more than I have for the past 10 years, because I was struggling like trying to listen to music with a headphone over my ear, and of course I cannot use an earbud. So with the new feature, thank God.
Yeah, and so, being as part of the University of Miami, right, a medical team, some of those early decisions are identification, diagnosis, right, and then talking about hearing technology or intervention. But even if you get properly fit with amplification or hearing aids, or if you undergo cochlear implantation, that is not sufficient, right? It requires a lot of therapy. So we have an amazing speech and language pathologist, or auditory verbal therapist, or as we also like to say, listening and spoken language specialists that can work with the families to provide at a minimum weekly intervention to coach the families on how to coach and develop language in the home. That on top of the education and finding the right educational placement for them. Is it a child that's ready to be mainstreamed, meaning they can go into a regular classroom, or do we need to find a more specialized program, such as an auditory oral program in the school system, or a total communication program where they're learning both spoken English and sign language? It's making sure we have those conversations early on, and we support the family in making their parent choice.
So through social media, I am very much happy of the awareness of hard of hearing and deaf people have come through nowadays, since I have never heard anybody beside my friends who are deaf or hard of hearing. So thankfully there are movies like The Quiet Place or Coda that have been out there and showing everybody that was like to be deaf, and pretty much on spread awareness that I really enjoyed, that people can understand of how we struggle, how we survive through the obstacles that have come through our life.
Most comprehensive pediatric program here in South Florida is at the University of Miami, and it is the Children's Hearing Program. We will never turn any patient away, so thanks to donations and philanthropic support, regardless of insurance, regardless of financial status, we are able to support all children and families that walk through this door. That means if they don't have insurance but needs hearing aids, we're going to provide that support. We've also worked with other, organizations to get cochlear implants donated, and our team also on occasion has been able to do pro bono surgeries to make sure we get the access to hearing healthcare that these children need.
When you meet a hearing impaired person, do not speak any differently. Keep the same pace and don't yell, because it doesn't help. Be natural. Now, of course, if the person uses sign language, then that's different. You try to incorporate sign. But don't change the way you speak, because the children have told me that all the time, because when they go to different teachers, they'll go, why does that teacher speak so loud when she speaks to me? I don't need that. I don't need them to enunciate every little word because I'm deaf. because that throws them off completely, because they're used to a pace, they're used to a volume, and when you change that, that makes it very different.